Ethan, don't forget your coffee, Lena called from the kitchen. I smiled, still fixing my tie. You know I can't function without it. She laughed softly, the sound I'd grown to love. You'd think after 5 years you'd have learned to make it yourself. Why would I when you make it better? I teased, taking the cup from her hands. She rolled her eyes. Flattery before 8 a.m.? You must want something. Just another good morning, I said, kissing her forehead. Moments like this used to feel endless, small, ordinary pieces of peace. We talked about groceries, her deadlines, and the movie we'd promised to watch that weekend. She looked tired, though, dark circles under her eyes. Rough night? I asked. Yeah, she sighed, glancing at her phone. We had to finish the quarterly report. I didn't get home until 2. Overtime again? She nodded, distracted by a message that lit up her screen. She quickly flipped the phone face down. Yeah, my boss is pushing everyone hard lately. I wanted to ask more, but something in her tone warned me not to. Instead, I smiled and said, Well, don't let him burn you out. You deserve a break. She brushed my shoulder with her hand. You're sweet, Ethan. I'll be fine. At the office, I sat through spreadsheets and emails, but her voice kept replaying in my head. My boss is pushing everyone hard. She'd said that before, last week, last month. It had become her favorite excuse. During lunch, my coworker Jason nudged me. You look miles away, man. Trouble in paradise? I forced a grin. Just tired. He smirked. You? The guy who used to brag about his perfect relationship? Come on, tell me she's at least human. She's human, I said. Just busy. Busy's fine, he said, chewing on his sandwich. Just don't let busy turn into distant. That's how things go bad. I laughed it off, but his words hit deeper than I wanted to admit. That night, Lena came home late again. I was sitting on the couch, dinner cold on the table. Hey, I said quietly as she walked in, keys jingling. Hey, she replied, setting down her bag. Sorry, I couldn't call. Things got crazy. It's fine, I said. Did you eat? She hesitated, eyes darting toward the kitchen. Yeah, we ordered takeout at the office. Who's we? Just the team, she answered quickly, kicking off her heels. Why do you ask? I shrugged, trying to sound casual. No reason. You just look drained. She sighed. Ethan, I told you. These reports are killing me. It's temporary. I nodded, pretending to believe her. I know. I just miss talking to you. Her face softened for a second. I miss it too. Let's fix that after this week, okay? I promise. Okay, I said, though something inside me whispered it wasn't true. Later, as she showered, her phone buzzed again. I glanced at it instinctively. A name flashed on the screen, Richard Hale. I didn't recognize it, but the timing, 11:48 p.m., felt wrong. My chest tightened. I turned away before I could do something I'd regret. When she came out, she looked surprised to see me still awake. You should sleep, she said. You've got an early day. Yeah, I replied. Just finishing some emails. She smiled faintly, kissed my cheek, and crawled into bed. I watched her for a moment, the rise and fall of her breath steady, peaceful. I wanted to believe everything was fine. I wanted to believe she was still mine in the same way I was hers. But there was something new in the air now. A quiet distance, invisible but real. The next morning, I tried to shake it off. Want breakfast together? I asked. She grabbed her blazer. Can't. Early meeting. Need a ride? No, Richard's picking me up. It's on the way. I froze. Richard? My boss, she said, noticing my reaction. Don't look at me like that, Ethan. It's just work. I didn't say anything. You didn't have to, she muttered, turning toward the door. You've been weird lately. Maybe because you've been gone lately, I said before I could stop myself. She paused, met my eyes for a long second, then said, We'll talk tonight, and left. The door clicked shut. Silence filled the room. I stood there with my coffee cooling in my hand, her lipstick still marking the rim of the mug she'd used. It was such a small thing, but it felt like a goodbye I hadn't been told about yet. That was the morning I realized something had shifted. Not enough to break us, but enough to start the slow unraveling neither of us would admit was already happening. And somehow, I still told myself it was just work. "Ethan, I'll be late tonight again," Lena said while scrolling through her phone. "We've got a deadline." "That's the third night this week," I replied, half joking, half tired. "You're starting to sound like your own voicemail." She laughed lightly. "What can I say? Corporate life doesn't sleep. Neither do I when you're out till midnight." Her smile faded. "You don't trust me?" I didn't say that. "You didn't have to," she said softly, tying her hair back. "You've been watching me like I'm hiding something." I tried to sound calm. "Maybe I just miss you, that's all." She sighed and kissed my cheek. "I'll make it up to you this weekend. Promise." That promise never came. By the next week, overtime became a routine word, like coffee or traffic. Her phone was always locked now. Her perfume smelled different, sharper, heavier, and she started humming songs I'd never heard before. One evening, as she got ready, I said, "You're leaving early for someone who's going to work late." "Pre-meeting dinner," she answered, adjusting her blazer. "With who?" "The team." I smiled thinly. "All guys?" She turned, narrowing her eyes. "Are you serious right now?" "Just asking." "Ethan," she said, picking up her bag, "I can't keep explaining my job every night. You either trust me or you don't." I watched her walk out, door closing behind her. The quiet that followed felt heavier than words. Later that week, my brother Marcus came over. He dropped a beer on the table and looked at me. "You look like hell." "I feel fine," I said, staring at the TV without seeing it. He raised an eyebrow. "Fine? You've got that 'my girlfriend is acting weird' face." I smirked weakly. "She's just busy." "Busy or distant? Don't start." He took a long sip. "You sure you're not ignoring the signs?" "What signs?" "The late nights, the phone that never leaves her hand, the way she avoids your eyes when you ask simple questions." I frowned. "You sound like you've been spying on her." "I don't need to," he said bluntly. "I've seen that look before, man. You're doing what I did, pretending nothing's wrong so it won't hurt." I leaned back. "So what? You want me to accuse her without proof?" He shrugged. "Proof always shows up sooner or later. The question is whether you'll be ready when it does." "Maybe she's just tired. Maybe you're just blind." His words hit harder than I wanted to admit. I forced a laugh. "You watch too many dramas, and you believe too many lies," he shot back. I glared at him. "She's not like that." He leaned forward. "Ethan, everyone's like that when temptation's easy." I stood up, annoyed. "You don't know her, and you don't either, apparently." The silence that followed was thick, almost suffocating. Marcus sighed, softer this time. "I'm not trying to ruin anything. I just don't want to watch you crash without warning." "I'll handle it," I muttered. "Yeah," he said, quietly grabbing his jacket. "Just make sure you're not handling it too late." That night I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, Marcus's words looping in my head. Proof always shows up sooner or later. When I heard Lena's key turn in the lock around midnight, I pretended to be asleep. She moved quietly, humming under her breath. I watched through half-closed eyes as she checked her phone, smiled faintly, and typed something fast. I wanted to ask who she was texting. Instead, I stayed still, my chest tight. The next morning, over breakfast, I said lightly, "You got home late last night." She blinked. "Yeah, traffic was insane." "Didn't you say your office is only 15 minutes away?" She froze for half a second, so brief most people wouldn't notice, but I did. "I meant, I dropped Sophie off first. She doesn't have a car." "Sophie," I repeated slowly. That's nice of you. She's my friend, Ethan. I didn't say it wasn't. Her voice sharpened. You're interrogating me again. I set my coffee down. I'm asking because you keep changing the story. Her phone buzzed on the table. She grabbed it quickly, screen turned away. Who's that? Work, she said, standing up. You really need to stop doing this. Doing what? This, she snapped, gesturing between us. This. Suspicion. It's exhausting. I bit my lip. Then tell me something I can believe. I'm telling you the truth. Are you? She stared at me, eyes hard. You know what? My boss offered to drive me home today. Maybe talk to him if you need proof. The words landed like a slap. Your boss drives you home? She realized her mistake too late. Sometimes. It's no big deal. No big deal? I laughed bitterly. That's your definition of overtime now? Stop twisting my words. I don't need to twist them, they twist themselves, her voice cracked. You're making something out of nothing. Am I? I said quietly. Because I can't tell anymore if I'm paranoid, or just the last to know. She turned away, tears in her eyes, or maybe anger. I couldn't tell. I have to go, she said, grabbing her bag. We'll talk later. The door slammed, leaving me alone with the echo of her perfume still in the air. Something new, something expensive, something that wasn't ours. I sat there in silence, the word boss circling in my mind like a ghost I couldn't shake. Maybe Marcus was right. Proof was coming. I just didn't know yet if I wanted to see it. The rain had been falling for hours, tapping against my windshield like it was counting my doubts. I told myself I wasn't following her, I was just passing by. That's what I kept repeating. Just passing by. When I parked near her office, the building was half dark except for the glow spilling from the glass lobby. Her blue umbrella was easy to spot. She stood near the curb laughing at something, her voice soft even through the rain. Then I saw him. Tall, expensive suit. Confident posture. Richard Hale, her boss. He held the umbrella for her, leaning close, saying something that made her cover her mouth as she laughed. My stomach twisted. Don't jump to conclusions, I muttered to myself. It could be work talk. But then he opened his car door for her, the passenger seat, not the back. She hesitated, smiling like a secret, and stepped in. My hands were shaking when I turned on the ignition. I followed them through slick streets, headlights blurring in the rain. Each red light felt like a test. Should I keep going or turn back? My chest said stop, but my gut said find out. When they finally turned down a familiar street, my heart sank. They weren't heading downtown. They were heading home. My home. I killed the headlights and coasted to a stop half a block away. The wipers squeaked against the glass as I watched them pull up in front of my apartment building. She looked relaxed. Too relaxed. He said something, she laughed again, and then he reached over. Her hand brushed his arm. That tiny, meaningless touch felt louder than thunder. I cracked the window slightly, just enough to hear fragments of their voices. Thank you for the ride, she said softly. He smiled. Anytime, Lena, you know that. You really didn't have to. I wanted to, he interrupted. You've been amazing lately. Couldn't have done that report without you, she laughed again, flustered. You're just saying that. I don't say things I don't mean. Then came silence. A long, charged silence. I gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles hurt. He leaned in a little closer, his voice low. You should get inside before you catch a cold. Yeah, she whispered. But she didn't move. They stayed like that, just looking at each other. Her eyes softened in a way I hadn't seen in weeks. When he finally leaned closer, my breath caught. He kissed her cheek. It was brief, almost innocent, but it destroyed me anyway. She smiled, actually smiled before stepping out of the car. Her heels clicked against the wet pavement as she hurried up the steps, umbrella half closed. Richard watched her until she disappeared inside. Then he sat there, adjusting his collar, and drove off into the rain like nothing had happened. I stayed parked in the dark, unable to move. The rain sounded different now, colder, sharper. I could barely breathe. My mind screamed 1,000 things, but my body was numb. Maybe it wasn't what it looked like. Maybe it was just gratitude. Maybe I'm insane. But the image wouldn't fade. Her smile, the blush, the way her shoulders relaxed around him like he was the person she trusted most. I finally whispered, "You said it was over time." My voice cracked in the empty car. "You said it was work." The engagement ring on her hand flashed in my memory. Silver, simple, my promise. The promise I thought meant something. Now it felt like a joke. My phone buzzed. A text from Lena. "Lena, heading home. Don't wait up, it's pouring out." I stared at the screen, laughing under my breath. "Yeah, I noticed." I typed nothing back. What could I even say? "I saw you with him." "I watched you laugh like you used to with me." "No, not yet. I needed to know for sure. Every lie, every reason, every piece of it." I sat there until the street emptied, until even the rain began to slow. When I finally drove home, her car was already parked. The lights inside our apartment were off, except for the faint glow from the hallway. I stood outside for a full minute before unlocking the door. She was asleep, or pretending to be. Her hair was still damp, her phone charging beside her pillow. I could see the engagement ring glinting faintly on her finger. That little circle of silver used to mean everything. Now it just mocked me. I sat in the dark living room, listening to the hum of the rain. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that car door open again, her smile, his hand brushing hers. I didn't cry. I didn't even speak. I just stared at the window, waiting for morning. Somewhere between the silence and the storm, I realized something had broken, not just between us, but inside me. I wasn't sure what hurt more, the betrayal I'd seen, or the hope that it still might not be real. By dawn, the rain had stopped. She stirred in bed, turning toward my side, not realizing I hadn't slept. I watched her in the half-light, wondering how long she'd keep pretending, and how long I'd let her. The ring still shone on her hand. And for the first time, it didn't look like a promise. It looked like a lie. "Morning," I said, forcing a smile as I poured coffee. She looked up from her phone. "Morning. You're up early." I couldn't sleep. "Rough night?" she asked, pretending to care. "Something like that." She stirred her mug, eyes flicking toward the clock. "I have a meeting at 9. "Big one," I nodded. "Right. Another late meeting?" "Yeah," she said quickly. "You know how Richard is. Always pushing deadlines." "Of course," I muttered. "Richard never rests." She laughed lightly, missing the edge in my voice. "You're not jealous, are you?" "Should I be?" Her eyes froze for a second, just one, and then softened. "Don't be ridiculous, Ethan. He's my boss." "Right." I took a sip. The coffee was bitter. "Just your boss." I watched her pack her bag, humming under her breath. Every movement felt practiced, rehearsed. She kissed my cheek like she always did. Soft, mechanical, detached. "See you tonight," she said. "Sure," I replied. "If the meeting doesn't go too late," she smiled. "I'll try." The door closed. Silence swallowed the room. I stared at the empty cup in my hands. My reflection rippled in the dark surface, warped and small. Maybe love really is slow poison. It doesn't kill fast. It numbs first. Every excuse she gave lately felt lighter, easier. Networking dinner. Team celebration. Client drinks. Each one slid through my chest without resistance now. I'd stopped bleeding. I was just cold. When she came home that night, I was still awake. "Hey," she said softly, slipping off her heels. "You waited up?" "Couldn't sleep again," she smiled faintly. "You should really stop worrying. It's just work, Ethan." "I'm sure it is." She froze, sensing something under my tone. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing," I said quickly. "Forget it," she crossed her arms. "If something's wrong, say it." I looked at her. The same eyes I used to trust, the same lips that whispered love like a promise. And I said, "Everything's fine." She exhaled sharply. "You've been different lately." "Maybe I've been awake lately." "What?" "Never mind," she grabbed her purse. "You're impossible when you're like this." "Like what?" "Quiet, accusing, weird. Then go to bed," I said, standing. "I'll be less weird when I'm asleep." She rolled her eyes and walked away. Her perfume lingered after she shut the door. Minutes later, I heard her phone buzz in the other room. I didn't move. I didn't need to check anymore. But then her purse tipped over from the couch, spilling out lipstick, receipts, and something small, something metallic. I knelt down. An earring. Silver. Intricate. Not hers. Lena didn't wear this style. Too bold, too heavy. I turned it in my hand, the small stone catching the lamplight. My heartbeat didn't quicken. My stomach didn't twist. I just watched it. When she came back out half asleep, she frowned. "You're still awake?" "Yeah. What's that?" she asked, pointing to my hand. I held it up. "You tell me," she blinked. "Oh, that's... I don't know. Maybe it's from the office. We had an event last week. Some of the girls..." "Stop," I said quietly. Her mouth closed. I didn't ask for a story. She swallowed hard. "Then why are you holding it like that?" "Because I'm curious." "Curious?" "Yeah," I said, setting it on the table. "About how many lies a person can tell before they forget which ones they've told." She stiffened. "You're being cruel." "No," I whispered. "Just observant." She turned away. "You're imagining things again." "Maybe," I forced a laugh. "It's easier than facing them." She grabbed the earring, dropped it back into her purse, and said, "I'm going to bed." "Good night," I said. Her door clicked shut. The house went quiet again. Except for the sound of my thoughts pacing in circles. Every lie had a pattern. Every word a weight. I was beginning to see it all clearly. Maybe that's what heartbreak really is. Not pain, but clarity. I used to love her warmth. Now I love the silence between her sentences more. Because silence doesn't lie. I poured another cup of coffee I didn't plan to drink and sat there in the dark, listening to the rain start again. It was strange how peaceful I felt. No rage. No tears, just a cold kind of calm, the kind you get when you finally stop fighting poison and start studying it instead. I wasn't broken anymore. I was planning. "Ethan, we need to talk." I looked up from my coffee. Olivia rarely used that tone. It wasn't friendly, it wasn't casual. It was cautious. "About what?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. She hesitated. "About Lena." My fingers tightened around the mug. "What about her?" "Don't make me say it," she whispered. "Then don't." Silence stretched between us. The cafe was loud enough to hide the tension, but not enough to drown the pounding in my chest. Olivia finally sighed. "You deserve the truth. People have been talking at work. About her and..." "Richard," I forced a smile. "People talk about everyone, Olivia." "It's what offices do." "This is different," she said softly. "She's been seen leaving his car, late, more than once." My jaw clenched. "You sure?" "I wouldn't bring it up if I wasn't." "She told me he drops her home sometimes." Olivia looked at me with pity that burned. "Ethan, no one gets dropped off that often unless there's something more." I laughed, a small broken sound. "You think I don't know that?" She reached out, touching my hand. "Then why do you still defend her?" "Because I want to be wrong," I said quietly. "I need to be wrong." After she left, I sat there staring at the untouched coffee. My reflection on the dark surface looked unfamiliar. Hollow, calm, dangerous. "People talk, Ethan. She's seen leaving his car. More than once." The words wouldn't stop echoing. I pulled out my phone and typed Lena's name in my messages. "Hey, how's work?" No reply. 3 dots appeared, then vanished. That silence told me everything. The next day, I called Sophie. She worked in Lena's department, quiet, polite, always smiling too fast when I said hello at office parties. "Sophie, it's Ethan. Can we talk?" "Ethan? Sure." "About what?" "Lena." "Oh." The hesitation was instant. "Is she okay?" "She's fine," I said. "I'm not." There was a long pause. "You know, don't you?" "I know enough to ask you directly," she exhaled shakily. "This feels wrong." "So does being lied to." Sophie's voice lowered. "If Lena finds out I said anything, she won't," I promised. "Please. I just need the truth." Silence again, then a whisper. "There was a retreat last weekend. Supposedly a leadership workshop. Only a few people went. And Richard? He organized it. And Lena?" She was there. I felt my pulse slow, like my body refused to react. "Where was this retreat?" "Harborfield Lodge," she said quickly. 2 hours out of town. That's not company property." "No," she said. "It's his." I closed my eyes. "And you're sure?" "I saw the emails, Ethan. Private ones." The trip was personal, I almost laughed. How personal? She hesitated again. They shared a room. My throat burned. You saw that? I booked it for them, she said quietly. I didn't know what it was at first. When I realized I felt sick, I swallowed hard. Thank you, Sophie. I didn't tell you for her, she whispered. I told you because you don't deserve this. After I hung up, I sat in silence. The air felt heavy, thick with something I couldn't name. My mind replayed every lie, every fake smile, every late meeting. The puzzle pieces clicked together, every one of them painted with her voice. It wasn't rage that filled me anymore. It was something colder, something precise. That night, when Lena called, her voice was sweet. Hey, babe. Sorry, busy day. Just got home, yeah? I asked quietly. How was Harborfield Lodge? The silence that followed was louder than a scream. What? She said finally, her tone sharp. You heard me? I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do, I said. Richard's Lodge. 2 hours out. Leadership retreat? She stuttered, then forced a laugh. Olivia's been gossiping again, hasn't she? No, I said. Sophie told me. Her breath caught. She wouldn't. She did. Ethan, it wasn't what it looked like. Then what was it? A work trip, she said weakly. Work doesn't book single rooms for 2 people. Ethan, please! I ended the call. The phone rang again, and again, but I didn't pick up. I just sat there watching the screen light up with her name until it stopped. Betrayal didn't feel like a knife anymore. It felt like a quiet room, like air that wouldn't move. I wasn't going to confront her yet, not until I had proof strong enough to bury every lie. I looked out the window. The city lights flickering like faint stars. I whispered to myself, if love built this pain, then truth will end it. And for the first time, I meant it. Lena, we need to talk. She looked up from the couch, phone in hand, smile fading. That's never a good start. It isn't, I said. Not tonight, she tilted her head. What's wrong? You tell me, her brow furrowed. Ethan, you're scaring me. Good, I said quietly. Maybe fear will bring out the truth. She set her phone down slowly. Okay, what's this about? Harborfield Lodge, her lips parted. What? You heard me. Why are you bringing that up? It was a work retreat, I cut in. You've used that word too many times, Lena. Her voice cracked. Who told you that? I've got eyes. And friends, she crossed her arms. So you're spying on me now? No, I said coldly. I'm listening to the things you stopped saying. Ethan, stop, I said sharply. No more excuses. Just tell me, were you there with Richard? She hesitated. Yes, but not the way you think. How should I think then? Because the photos say otherwise. Her expression froze. Photos? I reached into my jacket and tossed the envelope onto the table. It slid toward her like a verdict. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. You followed me? No, I said. I followed the lies. She looked at the pictures, her and Richard at the lodge, his hand brushing hers, her laughing. Then the last one, him kissing her forehead under the porch light. Say something, I said, my voice low. Her eyes filled with tears. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. Then how was it supposed to happen? She buried her face in her hands. Ethan, I didn't mean to hurt you. Then why did you? Because you stopped seeing me, she shouted suddenly, standing up. You stopped noticing when I changed my hair, when I came home late, when I cried after work. You were too busy being perfect, I blinked. So that's your excuse? You cheated because I didn't compliment your haircut? Don't twist it, she said through tears. I was lonely. Lonely? I repeated, my voice breaking. I was here every night waiting for you, Lena, cooking dinner, calling, hoping, and you were out there finding comfort in your boss. She sobbed. He made me feel seen. The words hit me harder than I expected. He made you feel seen, I repeated softly. And I didn't, she nodded weakly. You used to. But then work took over, life took over, and I just disappeared in front of you. I stared at her. So you disappeared into someone else's arms? It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. I snapped. My voice echoed through the apartment, bouncing off every memory we'd built. You let him touch you. You let him in. You let him destroy everything we were. Lena shook her head desperately. I made a mistake, Ethan. I swear it meant nothing. Then why lie about it for months? She sobbed harder. Because I was scared to lose you. You lost me the moment you chose him. She reached out suddenly, grabbing my arm. Please don't walk away. We can fix this. We can start over. I looked at her hand on mine. The same hand that once felt like home now felt like fire. I gently pulled away. No, I whispered. You broke something that doesn't heal. Ethan, please. Her voice cracked as she stepped closer. I love you. I looked into her eyes. No, you loved being loved. She gasped, tears spilling down her cheeks. That's not fair. Neither is betrayal. We stood there in silence. The sound of the rain outside filled the space between us. She whispered, Say something. Yell at me, hate me. Just don't go quiet. But I couldn't. I felt empty, too hollow for anger, too tired for hate. Silence, I said softly, is all that's left. Ethan. I turned toward the door. You know what hurts most? You wore my ring while he kissed you. Her breath hitched. I didn't mean, you meant every second, I said. And now, I mean this. I slipped the engagement ring from my finger and set it on the table beside the photos. Her knees buckled as she fell to the floor, clutching her chest. Please, don't leave. I looked at her one last time. I already did, she sobbed, reaching out. Ethan! I opened the door and the cold air hit me like a slap. I stood there for a moment, my back to her, her cries echoing behind me. You'll regret this, she shouted. Maybe, I said, but I'll regret it alone. The door closed with a sound that felt like finality. Outside, the city lights blurred through the rain. My reflection stared back from a puddle, tired eyes, trembling hands, but something else too. Resolve. For the first time, I didn't feel like the man who lost everything. I felt like the man who survived it. I whispered into the night, It's over, Lena, but I'm not. And as I walked away, my silence finally spoke louder than love ever did. It had been 6 months since I walked out that night. 6 months of silence, rebuilding, and strange peace. People said time heals. I learned time doesn't heal, it teaches. Ethan, congratulations. My manager smiled, handing me the promotion letter. You've earned this, I nodded. Thank you, sir, he patted my shoulder. You've come a long way. You'll oversee the new audit project starting next week. You'll be coordinating with Mrs. Hale. The name struck like a match. Mrs. Hale? Yes, Richard Hale's wife. I forced a calm smile. I'll be there. When I entered the conference room the following Monday, she was already there, poised, graceful, composed in a way that made silence feel heavy. Mrs. Hale, I greeted softly. Mr. Miller, she said, studying my face. I assume you know who I am. I do. Then you also know why I agreed to this meeting. I nodded. Richard Hale, her lips curved faintly. He's been careless, and I think you and I have something in common. I suppose we do, I said. She folded her hands. You were engaged to her, weren't you? Yes. I'm sorry, she said, and for the first time it sounded sincere. Don't be, I replied. It taught me everything I needed to know. We met in her office after hours. Files stacked high, confidential reports, whispers of corruption buried under company gloss. She opened a folder and slid it across the desk. Expense reports. Fake contracts. Richard's been laundering funds for months. I glanced through the pages. And Lena? She knew, Mrs. Hale said flatly. He used her to sign off on them. She's his alibi in half these transactions, I clenched my jaw. So she wasn't just lying to me, she was lying to everyone. Mrs. Hale leaned forward. You want justice, Mr. Miller? I don't want revenge, I said quietly. I just want truth, she smiled slightly. Truth is revenge if you serve it cold enough. We worked in silence for weeks, cross-referencing reports, tracing signatures, compiling evidence. Each document felt like a heartbeat in the slow rhythm of karma. Why are you doing this? I asked one evening. She didn't look up. Because he made me feel invisible. And then he made me feel stupid. I understood too well. He underestimated both of us. Her eyes met mine. That's why he'll lose. The day of the board hearing arrived. The conference room buzzed with nervous energy. Richard Hale sat at the head of the table, still confident, still charming, still pretending. Mr. Hale, the chairman began. We've received allegations regarding financial misconduct. Care to explain? Richard laughed. Baseless rumors. Probably from someone bitter. Mrs. Hale entered just then, heels clicking against the floor, every sound slicing through the tension. His smile faltered. Margaret. Hello, Richard, she said coolly. I'm here as a shareholder, he blinked. You don't have shares. I do now, she replied. Transferred last month. I handed the chairman the file. Sir, these are the expense records tied to Mr. Hale's personal accounts. Richard's eyes shot toward me. You? Me, I said simply. The man you thought would stay quiet. He rose from his chair. You think this will ruin me? Mrs. Hale crossed her arms. It already has. The chairman scanned the documents, frowning deeper with every page. Mr. Hale, these are serious. You'll be suspended pending investigation. Richard's voice trembled. You can't do this! Mrs. Hale tilted her head. Watch us. The meeting ended with whispers and disbelief. Richard stormed out, rage barely contained. I followed him into the hallway. You think this makes you noble? He hissed. You destroyed a man's career. I looked him dead in the eyes. You destroyed yourself. I just handed you the mirror. He pointed a trembling finger at me. She'll regret helping you. She already doesn't, I said. 2 weeks later, the company issued a formal statement. Richard Hale, terminated. Misconduct, fraud, investigation pending. Lena Carter, terminated for complicity. I stared at the email, a quiet ache curling through me. Not joy. Not even relief, just balance. That evening, Mrs. Hale called. It's done, she said simply. I saw. Do you feel better? I thought for a long moment. No, but I feel lighter. That's enough, she said softly. There was a pause. Then she asked, What will you do now? I'll live, I said. That's punishment enough for them, she laughed quietly. You're a strange man, Mr. Miller. I've been called worse. Then let's toast to strange men and patient women, she said. Karma finally tastes sweet. Later that night, I walked by Lena's old office. It was empty, clean, silent, and cold. I imagined her reaction. The shock, the tears, the realization that the man she betrayed and the woman she betrayed with had buried her future together. It wasn't revenge that made me smile. It was symmetry. As I left the building, Olivia called, Ethan! You did it, didn't you? Did what? I asked lightly. She laughed. Don't play dumb. Everyone's talking about it. You and Mrs. Hale, what a duo. I smiled faintly. We just did what was right. Right, she teased. So what now, hero? I'm done being the hero, I said. I'll just be me. Outside, the night felt cleaner somehow. The wind cooler, the sky brighter, I whispered to myself. You made me feel invisible, Lena, but now, I exist again. For months, I had dreamed of this moment. Justice, balance, the quiet fall of those who hurt me. Now that it had come, I realized something simple. Revenge wasn't loud. It was silent, patient, and deeply satisfying. As I walked home, the city lights flickered like soft applause, and for the first time in a long time I smiled, not because she lost, but because I finally won myself back. It was a quiet Sunday morning when the past decided to knock on my door. A soft, hesitant knock, one I somehow recognized before even opening it. When I did, there she was. Lena, I said. She looked nothing like the woman I used to know. Her hair was unkempt, her eyes hollow, and her voice trembled as she whispered, Can we talk? I stepped aside wordlessly. She walked in slowly, glancing around my apartment like it held ghosts. Maybe it did. I didn't know where else to go, she said, sitting on the edge of the couch. Everyone's turned their back on me. I stayed standing. Why now? She exhaled shakily. Because I've lost everything, the job. The friends, him, Richard? I asked, her lips quivered. He's gone. Moved on the second I became useless. I nodded, silent. I kept thinking, she continued, about how you used to look at me, like I was enough. No one's ever looked at me that way again, her voice cracked. You were the only one who ever truly loved me. I felt something shift inside me, but not pain, not longing. Just stillness. Do you want forgiveness? I asked quietly. She looked up, surprised. I want a chance to make things right, right? I repeated. You lied, cheated, and helped destroy people's lives. What could possibly make that right? Tears welled in her eyes. I was stupid, Ethan. I thought I wanted power, success, attention. But I lost myself. I lost you. I studied her face, searching for the woman I once knew. She wasn't there. Only the shadow of her remained. I don't hate you, I said finally. She blinked. You don't? No, I sighed. Hating you would mean you still mattered that much. She flinched at that. I used to think closure would come from hearing you apologize, I said. But I realize now it came from surviving without you. She buried her face in her hands. Please, say something kind, anything. I hope you find peace, I said softly. But I can't be part of your healing. I barely made it through mine. Her voice trembled. You've changed. I had to, I replied. You broke me. But I rebuilt differently this time, stronger. Her tears fell harder. Do you ever think we could start over? I shook my head slowly. No, because the version of me who loved you doesn't exist anymore. She stood, wiping her face. I don't deserve forgiveness. No one really does, I said. We earn it by living differently afterward. Then forgive me anyway, she whispered. Even if I don't deserve it, I looked at her for a long moment. The anger I once carried had dissolved into quiet compassion. I forgive you, I said. Her breath caught. You do? Yes, but not for you, for me, because I'm tired of carrying your ghost. She nodded slowly, eyes filled with something between relief and sorrow. You're better than I thought. No, I said. Just freer. She smiled faintly, a broken kind of smile. Goodbye, Ethan. Goodbye, Lena. When the door closed, the silence felt peaceful. For months I had imagined that moment filled with shouting or tears. Instead, it was calm. Final. I sat for a long time afterward, realizing that forgiveness wasn't weakness. It was release. Later that evening, my phone buzzed. Hey, stranger. Olivia's voice came through, warm and teasing. Still ignoring your friends? I laughed softly. I guess I've been busy growing up. Well, she said, I'm at that little cafe you used to love. You should join me. The world's been too serious lately. I hesitated for a second, then smiled. Give me 15 minutes. The cafe smelled of roasted coffee and faint nostalgia. Olivia waved from a corner table, a grin lighting up her face. I was starting to think you'd forgotten what sunlight looks like, she joked. I sat down. You'd be surprised. I've been walking through it again. She tilted her head. You look lighter. I feel lighter. Her eyes softened. Did you finally face her? Yeah, I said quietly. She came by, and I forgave her. Her eyebrows lifted. Just like that? Not just like that, I said with a small smile. It took months. But when she asked, I realized I didn't feel anger anymore. Olivia leaned back, studying me. That's brave, you know. I used to think being brave meant holding on, I said. Turns out it means letting go, she smiled. You've changed. Hopefully for the better. Definitely for the better, she said softly. We talked for hours about everything and nothing. The world outside dimmed, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was chasing something. When she laughed, I caught myself smiling, not because I needed her, but because I wanted to share that moment. At one point she said, You know, I always believed you'd find your way back to yourself. I met her eyes. Maybe you were the compass all along, she laughed. Don't get poetic on me, Miller. I'm serious, I said. You reminded me that losing someone isn't the end. Sometimes it's the start. As I walked her to her car later, the night air felt cool, crisp, like new beginnings. See you soon? She asked. Count on it. She smiled, and for the first time, it didn't feel like hope or fear, just peace. When she drove away, I looked up at the sky. It wasn't cloudless or perfect, but it was honest, just like me now. I whispered, When broken turns to brave, maybe that's what healing really means. And for once, I believed it. The drive to my mother's house felt quieter than usual. No music, no calls, just the sound of tires over fading asphalt. It had been months since everything fell apart, yet the ache had finally turned into something gentler. Not gone, just softer. When I pulled into her driveway, she was already standing on the porch, hands on her hips, that knowing smile on her face. You look thinner, she said the moment I stepped out. Are you eating or just pretending to be an adult again? I chuckled. A little of both, she hugged me tight. You smell like peace, she said. That's new. Guess I finally stopped chasing storms. Inside, she poured tea the way she always did, strong. Sweet and too hot to drink, so, she began, settling across from me. How's the heart? I smiled faintly. Alive. Beating. Not bleeding anymore. That's progress, she said. I was worried you'd bury yourself in work forever. I almost did, I admitted. But something changed. I stopped trying to fix what broke me. She raised an eyebrow. And the girl? Gone, I said. This time for good. Mom studied my face for a moment. You don't sound angry. I'm not, I said softly. I think I finally understand. Some people aren't meant to stay. They're meant to show you what you need to leave behind. She nodded slowly. Pain has a strange way of becoming a teacher. Yeah, I said, staring into my cup. It taught me patience, boundaries, and that love without respect is just self-destruction with prettier words. Mom smiled. That's a lesson most people never learn. We sat in silence for a while, the kind that didn't need filling. Then she said, You know, your father used to say something similar after your first heartbreak. I laughed. Back when I thought love was supposed to fix everything? Exactly, she said. He told you love isn't supposed to save you, son. It's supposed to meet you where you've already saved yourself. Her words sank in deeper than they ever had before. I think he was right, I said quietly. For a long time I wanted someone to make me feel whole, but now I'm okay being enough for myself. Mom reached across the table and touched my hand. Sometimes losing someone is how you find yourself. I met her eyes, and for the first time in years, I truly believed that. Later, we walked outside. The sun was melting into gold, painting the sky in colors that looked like forgiveness. Mom leaned on the railing. You've come far, Ethan. I had to, I said. I couldn't live in the echo of what was lost forever. She smiled knowingly. You're proud of yourself, aren't you? Maybe a little. Good, she said. You deserve that. We watched the horizon for a while, saying nothing. The silence didn't hurt anymore. It healed. I used to think closure was something someone gave you, I said finally. But it's really something you build piece by piece, she nodded. And when you stop waiting for an apology, that's when peace finally shows up. Exactly. She looked at me, eyes soft. You've grown, my boy. I had to break to do it, I said. She squeezed my arm. Then maybe the breaking was worth it. When I left that evening, the air smelled like rain, but the sky refused to cry. It just glowed, quiet, steady. I stopped at a small hill outside town, the place I used to come to when I needed to think. The city lights were distant, faint, like the memories I no longer needed to hold on to. I sat on the hood of my car and whispered into the fading light. I loved her once. The wind carried the words away, gentle and final. But now, I continued, I love my peace more. For a moment, I thought I heard my father's voice echo somewhere deep inside me. Calm. Approving, I smiled, because the truth was simple. Love had betrayed me. Yes, but pain had rebuilt me, and as the last of the sun disappeared, I felt the warmth stay behind, right where it belonged, inside me.